There are moments in WWE when silence is louder than any promo. When Seth Rollins vanished from television after Raw, fans immediately knew something was wrong. Not storyline wrong, real wrong. The man who thrives on chaos, laughter, and mind games was suddenly gone. No music, no love, no presence. And the last image burned into everyone's memory was betrayal. Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman. Three names that didn't just attack Seth Rollins, they erased him. Tonight on Wrestling News WWE, we break down everything: the surgery, the betrayal, the rise of the Vision, and the shocking possibility that Seth Rollins does not return alone but with monsters from his past. Welcome. Wrestling stories don't end when the camera is cut. We analyze the angles, the motives, the history, and the consequences. If you want depth, context, and real wrestling conversation, you're in the right place. Now, let's talk about a downfall that may become a war. The injury that changed everything following Crown Jewel. In Perth, reports emerged that Seth Rollins underwent shoulder surgery, forcing him out of action for the foreseeable future. WWE never used dramatic injury angles lightly, and this one was no exception. Rollins wasn't just written off television, he was destroyed. The attack on Raw was ruthless, calculated, and symbolic. This wasn't about removing a babyface. This was about eliminating a leader, a visionary, a liability to power. Shoulder surgery means months, not weeks. And that gives WWE something. Dangerous time to let anger grow. The night everything collapsed, Raw after Crown Jewel should have been about celebration. Instead, it became a public execution. Seth Rollins stood in the ring surrounded by men he once trusted. Bron Breakker, the genetic freak built for destruction. Bronson Reed, the walking avalanche. And Paul Heyman, the oracle, the manipulator, the man who never stands on the wrong side of history unless he plans to rewrite it. The beatdown wasn't chaotic, it was surgical. Rollins tried to fight back. But numbers don't lie, and neither does betrayal. WrestleMania 41, the birth of the Vision. To understand this betrayal, we have to rewind. WrestleMania 41 Night 1, the high-stakes main event. CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman standing where he always does, in the center of destiny. Except this time, Heyman shocked the world by turning on both Punk and Reigns. Standing beside him, Seth Rollins. That moment wasn't just a heel turn, it was a declaration. Rollins didn't want to fight the system anymore, he wanted to become it. The Vision was born: Rollins, Heyman, Breakker, and Reed. Power, control, dominance. The Vision's short but brutal reign in record time. The Vision became Raw's most dangerous faction. Breakker ran through challengers like a machine. Reed crushed anyone foolish enough to stand in his path. Heyman spoke with the authority of inevitability. And Rollins orchestrated chaos like a maestro. Titles were targeted, careers were shortened. Raw felt hostile again. This wasn't dominance for dominance's sake, it was efficiency. And that's exactly why Seth Rollins became expendable. Why they turned on Rollins. Here's the truth. Wrestling fans understand factions don't implode because of hate, they implode because of fear. Seth Rollins is unpredictable, he's emotional, he's dangerous, even allies. For Paul Heyman, loyalty is a temporary contract. The Vision didn't need Rollins anymore. Breakker had become the centerpiece. Reed was unstoppable. Heyman saw the future and Rollins wasn't in it, so they did what predators do. They removed the threat before it could strike. Surgery, silence, and storytelling. Seth Rollins undergoing shoulder surgery gave WWE the perfect storm. Real injury meets storyline brutality. No need for weekly updates. No need for rushed returns, just absence. And in wrestling, absence creates myth. Fans are left to speculate, wrestlers are left to talk, and the villains, they get comfortable, too comfortable. Revenge is never solo. Here's where things get interesting. Seth Rollins has never fought wars alone. The Shield, authority, alliances, messiahs. Rollins understands power dynamics better than most. And when you're facing Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman, numbers matter. Which brings us to a name from the past that refuses to stay buried. The authors of Pain, Forgot Monsters, Zikam and Razar. The authors of Pain, former Raw Tag Team Champions, one of the most physically intimidating teams WWE has ever produced. Released earlier this year. Quietly, without ceremony. But wrestling history doesn't forget monsters, it waits for the right moment to unleash them again, and that moment might belong to Seth Rollins. History repeats itself: late 2019 into early 2020. Seth Rollins wasn't the visionary then, he was the messiah, and standing behind him were the authors of Pain. Alongside Buddy Murphy, Rollins led a faction built on dominance and fear. Achim and Razar weren't talkers, they were enforcers. When Rollins spoke, they executed. Injuries and the pandemic ended that run prematurely. But unfinished business has a way of resurfacing. Why AOP makes perfect sense. This isn't fantasy booking for shock value. This is logic. Seth Rollins returning alone would be heroic but foolish. Returning with Achim and Razar strategic. The Vision has strength. Rollins would counter with brutality. Breakker is explosive. Reed is immovable. And unlike other potential allies, they already trust Rollins. There's no introduction needed, just violence. Paul Heyman's worst nightmare. Imagine this scenario. Raw, Paul Heyman in the ring, smug in control, promising that the Vision is eternal. Suddenly, laughter, that laugh. Seth Rollins returns, but he doesn't attack, he smiles. Then the lights shift. Achim and Razar step forward. Heyman's expression changes, not to fear but recognition, because he knows exactly what this means. VAR, the dynamic shift on Raw. Rollins with AOP doesn't just even the odds, it tilts them. Bron Breakker. Thrives on one-on-one destruction. Reed dominates chaos, but Achim and Razor specialize in erasing momentum. They isolate, they overwhelm. Rollins becomes the brain again. Heyman loses control of the narrative, and suddenly the Vision isn't hunting, it's being hunted. Seth Rollins' new motivation. This wouldn't be a babyface return, this would be something darker. Seth Rollins seeking revenge isn't about cheers, it's about punishment. He trusted Heyman. He built the Vision, and they left him broken. Rollins doesn't forget betrayal, he studies it, and when he returns, every move will be calculated. Every laugh will mean something. The WarGames implications, with WarGames always looming as WWE's ultimate battleground. This storyline fits perfectly. Two cages, two factions, Noiscape, Rollins, Opal versus Breakker, Reed, and whoever Heyman recruits to survive. This is the kind of long-term storytelling WWE thrives on. Injury, absence, return, escalation. Why WWE would wait? Timing is everything. Rollins cannot rush a return. Shoulder surgery. WWE knows that, which is why the story will simmer. Heyman will mock him, Breakker will dominate, Reed will destroy, and fans will beg for justice. When Rollins finally returns, the reaction won't be loud. It'll be volcanic, risks in reality. Let's be clear, this angle is speculative. WWE has not confirmed AOP's return. Rollins' exact timetable remains unknown, but wrestling storytelling thrives on plausibility, and this scenario isn't random. It's rooted in history, logic, and unfinished business. Whether WWE pulls the trigger or not, the groundwork is there. What this means for Seth Rollins' legacy, this could be a defining chapter. Rollins returning not as a savior but as a war general leading monsters against the very faction he helped create. That's poetry, that's wrestling. And it reinforces what Seth Rollins has always been. Adaptable, dangerous, and impossible to erase. Final thoughts. Vision never dies. Seth Rollins may be injured. He may be silent, but the visionary is never truly gone. He watches, he plans, and when the time is right, he strikes harder than before. Whether with the authors of Pain or another force entirely, one thing is certain: betrayal doesn't end Seth Rollins' story. It evolves it that if Seth Rollins returns with monsters at his side, Raw will never be the same. And when that moment happens, Wrestling News WWE will be here to break it down move by move, motive by motive. If you enjoyed this deep dive, drop your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay locked in, because in WWE, silence is temporary and war is inevitable.